Everyone knows the katana can slice through anything. Popular culture has built an entire mythology around this weapon: the folded steel, the razor edge, the legendary cutting power that cleaves armor and bone in a single stroke. You've seen it in films, read it in novels, heard it repeated as historical fact. The katana cuts what European swords cannot. It's sharper, lighter, more precisely engineered. In the hands of a skilled samurai, armor becomes irrelevant. The blade simply passes through. But medieval combat didn't work that way. The katana is a brilliantly engineered cutting sword. Its curved single-edged blade concentrates force along a precise cutting geometry. The differential hardening, soft spine, hard edge, creates flexibility with sharpness. It weighs roughly 2 to 3 pounds, balanced for swift, controlled cuts. Against unarmored targets, silk, bamboo, even rolled straw mats, the katana performs exactly as advertised. It cuts cleanly. Devastatingly. But here's what the legend ignores: most medieval combat wasn't against unarmored targets. Step onto a 13th century battlefield in Eastern Europe, or the Mongol frontier. Your opponent isn't wearing silk robes. He's wearing mail, thousands of interlocking iron rings, each ring riveted or welded closed. Or he's wearing lamellar, small overlapping plates of hardened leather or steel, laced together into flexible scales. These aren't decorative. They're engineered defense systems designed specifically to stop cutting weapons. And now your katana has a problem. Picture the moment of impact. You swing the katana in a perfect descending cut. The edge meets mail. What happens next isn't what the movies show. The blade contacts the rings. But it doesn't slice through iron. Instead, the rings distribute the force across their structure. Each ring is connected to 4 others. When you strike 1, you're striking 5. When you strike 5, you're actually engaging 25. The impact spreads outward in a web. The mail flexes. It absorbs. The rings don't break because the force never concentrates enough to shear metal. Your blade stops. It doesn't pierce. It doesn't cut. The edge, sharp as it is, cannot separate interlocking iron rings designed to prevent exactly this kind of attack. The katana's cutting geometry, its razor edge, its legendary sharpness, none of it matters. You're not cutting flesh or bamboo. You're trying to saw through a metal net with a knife. The same principle applies to lamellar. Each small plate overlaps the one below it. Your blade strikes the surface, contacts hardened material, and glances along the overlap. The scales shift slightly, absorbing and redistributing impact. They don't shatter. They don't split. They're too small, too numerous, too interlocked. Even if you manage to crack one plate, the ones surrounding it hold. The armor bends with the blow and springs back. Think about what that means for the fighter. You've committed to a full power cut. You've generated momentum, rotated your hips, extended through the strike. The blade connects and stops dead. Your hands feel the shock. The recoil travels up your arms. You've expended energy and achieved nothing. Your opponent is unharmed. And now you're exposed. Because here's the critical truth: cutting requires either soft material or enough force to exceed the material's sheer strength. Mail and lamellar aren't soft. And the katana, at 2 to 3 pounds swung by human arms, cannot generate the force necessary to shear through interlocking iron or hardened scales. Physics doesn't care about reputation. If you're enjoying cutting through medieval myths like this, consider subscribing. Arms and Impact breaks down how weapons and armor actually worked, beyond the movies and into real combat. The katana's failure against mail isn't a flaw in the sword. It's a fundamental mismatch between weapon type and target. Cutting swords, all cutting swords, Eastern and Western, fail against flexible armors designed to neutralize cuts. The European longsword faces the same problem. The saber faces the same problem. Curved or straight, folded or not, it doesn't matter. A cutting edge cannot cut what it cannot separate. What about the force of the blow itself? Can't the impact alone injure through armor? Sometimes. A powerful cut to the head might cause concussion even if the blade doesn't penetrate. Broken ribs, bruising, disorientation, blunt trauma through armor is possible. But it's not the clean, decisive strike the myth promises. It's a stunning blow at best. And it requires the target to be unprotected by padding underneath, which most armored fighters wore. Gambeson, layered cloth, quilted fabric, all of it further dampens impact. Your katana has become a club. An expensive, breakable club. What this forced fighters to do was abandon the cut entirely when facing armored opponents. In European combat, this led to half-swording, gripping the blade itself to use the sword as a lever and thrusting weapon, targeting gaps in armor. In Japanese warfare against armored samurai, it led to grappling, short blades, and the use of pole weapons. The katana became a sidearm, a weapon of last resort or status, not the primary battlefield tool. The yari, the spear, dominated armored combat because it could thrust into gaps and keep distance. Even within sword combat, adaptation meant technique over force. Targeting unarmored areas, the face, the throat, the armpit, the inner thigh. Anywhere the armor didn't cover. Wrestling the opponent to the ground where a dagger could finish the fight. The sword became a grappling tool as much as a cutting weapon. And here's the unintended consequence. The more effective armor became, the less the quality of the sword's edge mattered. Sharpness became irrelevant if you weren't cutting. What mattered was structural integrity, point geometry for thrusting, and the ability to withstand being used as a lever without breaking. So why does the myth of the all-cutting katana persist? Because the tests that built its reputation were against the wrong targets. Straw mats, bamboo, unarmored flesh, the katana excels against these. Demonstrations focus on what the sword can do, not what it can't. And popular media reinforces the image, because a blade slicing cleanly through armor looks dramatic. The truth, blade stopped cold by interlocking rings, doesn't make for exciting cinema. The historical reality is this: the katana is a superbly designed cutting sword optimized for unarmored or lightly armored opponents. Against mail, lamellar, or plate, it fails for the same reason every other cutting sword fails. Not because it's inferior, but because cutting weapons cannot defeat flexible armor systems designed specifically to neutralize them. Understanding this matters because it reveals how medieval combat actually functioned. Armor dictated tactics. Tactics dictated weapon choice. No single weapon dominated all contexts. The fighter who survived wasn't the one with the sharpest blade, it was the one who understood what his weapon could and couldn't do, and adapted accordingly. The katana didn't fail because it was poorly made. It failed because it was a cutting sword facing a problem cutting swords cannot solve. What weapon or myth should we break next? Comment below.